All right, jet setters, welcome to another episode. I'm actually really excited to do this episode. This episode is going to be about do carbs make you fat? Well, the short answer is no. But unfortunately, there's a lot of myth building narratives that have been so ingrained in our culture with food to demonize carbs. Because they're easy to, right? It's easy to blame your jelly donuts while you're fat. Um, and I want to get into that a little bit later, but I do want to set the record straight. Carbs don't make you fat, and if you're doing a low carb diet because you want to lose fat, you might be making this harder on yourself. And there's a reason for that too. But I do want to give you some context of maybe where all this began. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And there's a massive storm of nutrition misinformation with this, and I just want to I have a background in nutrition from the National Academy of Sports Medicine, but I'm also going to be quoting smarter people than me who also agree with me. And we're diving into this myth that just won't die. Carbs make you fat. It's harmful. It's not just wrong. And I'm going to show you why with science and studies that and some common sense why this is the case. So this low-carb diet culture kind of started in the 90s with the Atkins diet, and then it kind of morphed into keto, and it's also kind of, liver king, carnivore, whatever. It's all the same. Basically, don't eat carbs, lose fat. Does that work? Yes. Am I saying that a low-carb diet doesn't lead to fat loss? No. But not for the reasons you would expect. And we're going to kind of get into that. But really, the thing I want to hit on is anyone I've ever talked to who's done a low-carb diet, either they've done it, succeeded, and gained the weight back, or they've never done it successfully and lost the weight. Anybody who is still living low-carb ketosis for the rest of their life, I haven't really met them. And maybe because they're influencers and people I don't talk to because I just strongly disagree with it because it's so unhealthy and so bad for you. But there's just such a better way to do this. And it's better for your body. And it's just, there's no reason not to eat carbs. And we'll get into that because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I find that to be the case with anybody who does keto. Because it worked once, they couldn't keep it off. They internalize some shame and decide, well, I lost 30 pounds on keto, I should do that again. But they never ask themselves, well, maybe it was the process of losing that caused your weight gain. Diet culture, losing weight has always been associated with a short-term goal, never associated with a long-term lifestyle change. And that's partially marketing, that's partially culture, but it's also partially you for just not taking a step back and asking yourself, why do I want to lose weight? And am I willing to keep the sacrifice to keep it off? Or is it a sacrifice? What am I going to gain by losing weight? That's an even better question. Do I really like my diet so much that I can't change it? That's another thing you should be asking. But we shouldn't demonize carbs. Carbs are not the enemy. So why do carbs get blamed for fat? Well, before we do that, let's understand what carbs are. They're one of three macronutrients alongside protein and fat. Your body needs all three. Carbs are broken down, very basic, into sugar, like fruit, honey, true sugar on your table, starches, bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, and then fiber, which is undigestible, but is so important for your gut microbiome. The bacteria and organisms in your gut rely on undigestible carbohydrates, aka fiber, which not only helps with like going to the bathroom and pooping, but science has shown that actually helps with like emotional regulation. Parkinson's studies have shown that people with chronic gut inflammation are more likely to get Parkinson's. So many unrelated diseases actually occur, at least that's what the current science is showing, due to a poor gut microbiome. And so I'm asking a question. If this this microbiome requires fiber to live, how does keto, carnivore, or the Atkins diet support that microbiome? It doesn't. Not only will you be more constipated, but you possibly are bringing on Pandora's box of other maladies unrelated to fat loss just by getting rid of a macronutrient like carbohydrates. Okay, so let's kill the phrase good carbs and bad carbs, because there's no morality with food. There's just food. We assign shame with food so often, and we shouldn't, because food is wonderful. Your taste buds are wonderful. Enjoy food. We're never going to sacrifice our enjoyment for food with weight loss, because if we do that, we're making a Faustian bargain that's gonna fail at the end of the day. So just don't do that. But good versus bad carbs, right? So sure, oatmeal and lentils have more nutrients than Pop-Tarts, but that doesn't mean you need to ban one and eat the other one. And this is so key for what we do here at Jet Set Trainer, because guess what? I don't have access to oatmeal at every airport. I don't have access to a beautiful quinoa salad in, let me think of the worst food court I've ever been to. Shreveport, Louisiana. It's not in that airport, I guarantee it. So having a balanced diet doesn't mean we're giving up things. It also means that sometimes you're going to have to eat food that's lower in nutrition than others. Either way, it can help you lose fat. And it matters with the context of how much you eat, total caloric intake, and the other nutrition you get throughout your day, and the frequency of how much you eat. So labeling foods as bad almost is a way to unload the responsibility on you, the eater, for your weight loss. Foods don't make you fat, you do. You just have to know how to eat them. So, here's the heart of the low-carb myth, is that carbs spike insulin, therefore insulin stores fat, thus carbs equals fat gain. This is called the carbohydrate-insulin hypothesis of obesity, and it's been tested repeatedly to be false. Hal and Go, 2017, had a meta-analysis of 32 tightly controlled feeding studies. Results, no advantage for low-carb diets when calories and protein are exactly the same, meaning there was no change for people losing weight or gaining weight when it came to low-carb versus high-carb. But guess what? Calories and protein were the same. And guess what? That's a bigger say on your weight loss. Kevin Hall's 2015 NIH study. Participants were locked into a metabolic ward. They compared isocaloric low-carb and high and low-fat diets, and they were trying to isolate insulin, basically. The low-fat group actually lost more body fat, even having higher insulin levels, because they probably were having more carbs, right? So that directly attacks the causality that insulin spikes causes fat. You know, there's a doctor, Dr. Nicholas Guess of Oxford. He's an Oxford researcher in nutrition. He said that there's no convincing evidence that insulin per se causes obesity when caloric intake is controlled, which basically kind of goes by the meaning energy in, energy out. If you're trying to lose weight, you're going to have to eat less energy, whether it's carbs, fat, or protein. Just less. Eat less. Not shocking. But when we start to demonize different food groups and whatnot, it's easier to get away from that sad reality. You know, and something I'll say too in weight loss is like, what would you do if your dog was overweight? Probably feed them less and take them on more walks. Not to minimize your weight loss struggle, but I'm just saying, like, that is truly how simple this can be, but also difficult. I'm not saying it's easy to do that. But don't let these fad diets, don't let Atkins, don't let keto or carnivore tell you anything different. It's not the food you're eating. I'm vegan, and I'm telling you, just because I'm vegan doesn't mean I'm going to lose any more fat than someone who's a carnivore diet. It truly comes down to calories. Protein's huge too, because we want to make sure that we maintain our muscle mass in a weight loss. So it's easier to do that in carnivore, obviously, but you're also destroying your microgut biome and destroying your primary energy source, which is glucose coming from carbs. So before we get into that, why does this still exist? Well, money is the short answer. You have people who are keto influencers or low carb diets or People Magazine, the carnivore myth, blah blah blah. It's more about masculinity and identity there than it is about health. Because paleo, I used to hunt mammals, and that's what our ancestors did. Well, I'll just quote like What the Health, or I think it was in What the Health, but gladiators had a lot of carbs. They were grain munchers, because carbs are energy. Energy is what allows you to fight. We were hunter-gatherers for most of our life. Just because there's no bones left over at a campsite doesn't mean we didn't have a ton of fruits, vegetables, and grains. Just because the bones were left over in the archaeological record doesn't mean we didn't eat anything but mammoth. It's the truth. Or fish, right? Or whatever. We as a species, as humanity, have learned to survive on pretty much anything. You have Eskimos who primarily rely on the ocean. Okay. And you have people who live in Papua New Guinea who live primarily on jungle crops. We've taken over the planet and eaten lots of food to survive, and that's another key point, is that you can eat whatever you want, your body's going to try and make do. But we live in the first world, most of us, and you have access to all the foods, so why force your body to go into survival mode to lose weight? And that's what keto says you need to do. Why don't we go into thriving mode and just eat better? Because, another thing I said, money, profits. What's the most expensive thing in your grocery cart? It's generally meat, right? Who probably has the most control over marketing in the food space? Meat and dairy. If we can convince more consumers to only eat meat and give up carbs, we're going to make more money. It's pretty simple. It's not about your health. It's disguised as health. And oh yeah, sure, you can lose fat by doing keto. But you're going to be ordering a lot more meat to do that to replace the carbs you're ditching. Where's the broccoli producer or the bread manufacturer's marketing to say, no, you need bread? I haven't really seen it. But the meat and dairy industry is very powerful. That's another topic for another episode. So, I kind of hinted at this. What really causes fat gain? Well, the truth is simple, and it's not sexy. Fat gain happens when you have a calorie surplus, and fat loss happens when you're in a calorie deficit. Whether your calories come from rice, ribeye steaks, radishes, if you eat more than you burn, you will gain weight, period. The real problem isn't carbs. It's eating ultra-processed food, lack of structure, emotional eating, no sustainable training or habit system, having a low food IQ of what you're eating, or my favorite, I eat when I'm full and I stop eating, or I just eat what I feel like I need. To be honest, your body's preferences for food change over time depending on the habits that you have. So when you say you're listening to yourself to eat the foods you need, it's really just a self-fulfilling prophecy to not change. Studies have shown that your taste buds will change after 2 weeks of eating new foods. So if you're someone in there who's like, I hate vegetables, well, I challenge you to eat vegetables for 2 weeks, and I think you'll actually start to like them. But ultimately, that's what we fix here with Jet Set Trainer, is we really want to fix your relationship with food. We're not going to demonize any food, whether it's beer, carbs, pizza, burgers. We're going to teach you how to eat it and stay within your guidelines to actually lose weight, if that's your goal. But if we want to build muscle, the same is true. All food can play a role in your goals, some more than others, and we're just here to help you with that. So if you've been caught in this no-carb trap, I give you permission with this episode to stop being afraid of food and start learning about it. I want you to learn how to burn fat, keep muscle, and enjoy the meals you enjoy along the way. So this is my shameless plug. If you want to work with me as someone who travels routinely every week, somebody who doesn't have access to a gym all the time, somebody who doesn't have access to nutritious food all the time, but still gets results, still loses weight, still loses fat, still builds muscle. Despite all the reasons in the world for me not to be able to do that, I still do that. If you want me to teach you these easy and simple to use strategies to apply in your own life, please keep listening to this show, see my content, and if you really want to work with me, click the link in all my bios to start training with me, or go to jetsettrainer.com and learn more about us. We're here to solve this once and for all, not to give you another diet fad, not to give you a near-term goal of shredding in 90 days. I'm here to actually fix your relationship with food and fix your relationship with your body. And guess what? You can't do that without education, and that's what I'm here to give you. So it's another quick episode. I just wanted to let you know, go eat some carbs today. Stop worrying about it. Start worrying about the total amount of food you're eating. All right. Have a good one, guys. Take care.